located on federal land can face up to 6 separate environmental reviews and span over a decade. Identical or similar review phases can take 6 months in one Bureau of Land Management office and perhaps years in another. This lack of predictability and consistency creates uncertainties and barriers to project development and to bringing much-needed electrons to market. We need standardization, and the geothermal technical acumen across BLM field offices required for precise, informed, responsible, and timely permitting decisions. Data centers, artificial intelligence technology, and the reshoring of advanced manufacturing are driving unprecedented and historic electricity demand in the United States. Our country needs every megawatt we can get, especially dispatchable baseload power that is reliable, resilient, and weather independent. The geothermal energy industry supports all 9 bills before you today to solve these problems. The GEO Act, or H.R. 301, and the Clean Act, H.R. 1687, establish clear timelines, including annual lease sales and 60-day deadlines for agencies to make permit decisions. These changes would provide the geothermal industry with the same certainty that the conventional industry enjoys today, currently. The STEAM Act extends categorical exclusions already established for oil and gas to geothermal in the same areas. This makes sense because our industry drills similar holes, but with less environmental impact. It is a common sense approach that rightfully has received widespread bipartisan support. The Geothermal Cost Recovery Authority Act enables the reimbursement of BLM's costs to speed up the permitting process, a pragmatic solution to resource constraints that the geothermal industry supports. The Gold Book and Ombudsman bills work together beautifully. The Geothermal Gold Book Development Act would standardize procedures across BLM field offices. The Ombudsman and Permitting Strike Team bill would ensure these standardization procedures are implemented efficiently. We think these bills are creating the playbook for a quarterback to execute. I recognize that some members might have concerns about H.R. 5576, the Enhancing Geothermal Production on Federal Lands Act, and H.R. 5587, the HEATS Act. To be clear, we understand that H.R. 5576 would exempt only the smallest of exploration activities, temporary wells of less than 8 acres and restored within 3 years. These are test holes, not power plants. BLM already recognizes its minimal impact through administrative categorical exclusions. This bill would simply provide legislative certainty, which is critical to the geothermal industry. H.R. 5587 would only apply where the federal government owns less than half of the subsurface rights. In these split estate situations, states already do most of the regulating. This bill would eliminate redundancy while explicitly protecting tribal lands and maintaining federal royalties. It's targeted and reasonable reform. To those concerned about environmental protection, Geothermal Rising shares those concerns. Our members are in this industry precisely because we care about the environment. Every megawatt of geothermal helps reduce emissions and brings more baseload power online. It is a win-win. These bills don't gut environmental review. They focus it where it matters while eliminating redundancy where it doesn't. These bills work together. Standards without enforcement don't work. Deadlines without resources cannot be met. Parity means little if implementation remains inconsistent. The geothermal industry needs all 9 bills to achieve necessary and more comprehensive reform. The geothermal resources beneath our feet have the potential to energize America for millennia. The technology is proven, the workforce, much of it transitioning from the oil and gas, is ready. Private capital is eager to invest billions. What we lack is a federal permitting system that treats geothermal rationally, not harder than fossil fuels, not easier than appropriate, and not like an intermittent renewable resource, but rather based on actual risk and impact and takes into account the unique characteristics of geothermal resources. These bills help achieve that balance. They maintain environmental protection while removing unnecessary and duplicative barriers. They are the product of years of bipartisan work and stakeholder engagement. So members of this committee, we can either continue to strand gigawatts of clean, reliable domestic energy underground, or we can pass these common sense reforms and unlock one of our most abundant and untapped baseload energy resources. China and other competitors are racing ahead on geothermal. The United States has better resources, better expertise, a stronger workforce, and innovative technologies. Let's not lose our advantage to outdated bureaucratic red tape that does more harm than good. So I urge Congress to pass all 9 bills as a complete package, send a clear signal that America is serious about about the urgency about energy security, energy dominance, grid reliability, and clean baseload power. Thank you for holding this important hearing today, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Our next witness is Mr. Tim Latimer. He is the co-founder and CEO of Fervo Energy and is stationed in Houston, Texas. Mr. Latimer, it's great to see you again. You are now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Stauber, Ranking Member Ansari, and the full subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Tim Latimer, co-founder and CEO of Fervo Energy. We're a leading developer of next-generation geothermal technology. It's an honor to discuss how geothermal and smart bipartisan permitting reform can help meet America's growing power needs. Earlier this year, I joined some of you in Cedar City, Utah, following a visit to Fervo's Cape Station project. Since that field hearing, we've made significant progress and delivered real innovation in Utah, including securing and building our first turbine, successfully testing our transformers on site, and raising over $1 billion in capital. At Fervo, we've taken proven technologies from the shale revolution, horizontal drilling, fiber optic sensing, and real-time data analytics, and reimagined them for geothermal. The result is enhanced geothermal systems, or EGS, the only zero-emission baseload power source ready to scale rapidly over the next 5 years. Our flagship project, Cape Station in Utah, is under construction today. Beginning just next year, it will deliver 100 megawatts of around-the-clock power to the grid, with plans to scale to 500 megawatts. It is already permitted for up to 2 gigawatts of growth, positioning it to become the world's largest next-generation geothermal development. Cape Station proves this is no longer theoretical. We are drilling faster every month, learning from each well, and cutting costs at a pace reminiscent of the early shale days. We've already shown a 75% reduction in drilling time and a 70% cost per foot reduction since 2022, when we drilled our first wells, demonstrating the speed that America needs to meet rising electricity demand. And that demand is accelerating rapidly. Artificial intelligence and data centers alone could consume up to 12% of U.S. electricity by 2028. Geothermal is uniquely positioned to provide the affordable, reliable, 24/7 carbon-free power that this moment requires. Enhanced geothermal is built by American workers using American equipment. Many of our employees come from the oil and gas sector, and it takes just 2 days to retrain a worker from oil and gas to work on an enhanced geothermal system rig. This is a pathway to scale a new energy industry while creating durable, good-paying jobs rooted in the existing U.S. workforce. EGS is also designed to minimize environmental impacts. Fervo uses dry cooling and closed-loop power generation systems that re-inject all the produced fluids back into the geothermal reservoir, protecting the groundwater and reducing surface disturbance. We take induced seismicity seriously and use advanced modeling and real-time monitoring, following the best practices established by the Department of Energy. Our supply chain is domestic. While our early projects are in the West, our suppliers span states including Texas, Wyoming, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, and Utah. Enhanced geothermal does not rely on foreign adversaries and strengthens U.S. energy security while delivering real economic benefits to local communities. The greatest barrier to geothermal growth is not technology, it's process. Over 90% of geothermal resources lie beneath federally managed lands, yet permitting can take years. Meanwhile, Fervo is working towards drilling, building, and bringing select phases of a project online in under 24 months, where permitting and interconnection are in place. With targeted reforms to environmental review and transmission permitting, geothermal can become a cornerstone of America's energy supply. That's why we appreciate this committee's leadership. Fervo supports all 9 bills before you today. These common sense measures, such as categorical exclusions for expiration, timely lease sales, and increased geothermal expertise within federal agencies, will put geothermal on equal footing with oil and gas while maintaining strong environmental and community protections. The geothermal opportunity is not decades away. With efficient permitting and targeted investment, the United States can unlock tens of gigawatts of enhanced geothermal in the next decade, strengthening grid reliability, U.S. competitiveness, energy security, and driving down carbon emissions. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. Our next witness is Ms. Carrie Rohrmeyer. She is the Nevada Climate and Energy Strategy Director for the Nature Conservancy, and she is stationed in Reno, Nevada. Ms. Rohrmeyer, you are now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Chairman Stauber, Ranking Member Ansari, and members of the committee, Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Dr. Carrie Rohrmeyer, and I work as the Climate Energy Strategy Director for the Nevada chapter of the Nature Conservancy. TNC is a global organization. We work on the ground in all 50 states, and our conservation work extends to 83 countries and territories around the globe. Our mission is to conserve the lands and waters on which all life depends, and we are a science-based organization that works with a broad range of partners to bring together policy expertise, sustainable financing, and collaborative partnerships to create the solutions our planet needs. In the coming years, the United States will use more energy than ever. This trend is driven by things that will improve the economy, such as revitalization of the American manufacturing industry, innovation and driving, artificial intelligence, and increasing use of electrified technologies. The country will need a mix of energy sources to meet this rising demand because no single source can do it alone. At TNC, we believe that clean, firm geothermal energy can deliver affordable, reliable energy that supports economic growth and provides cleaner air while also reducing harmful emissions. As with any energy development, geothermal can pose risks to local communities, cultural resources, and the environment. Geothermal projects should be sited and built in ways to minimize those risks. In any instances where a project can't minimize them, they should be mitigated with off-site conservation. New and emerging drilling techniques and technologies such as super hot rock and enhanced geothermal systems can reduce these risks and allow for more flexibility in siting. New technologies and siting practices help the U.S. remain a world leader on geothermal energy. But for industry to continue to grow, it will need support from the government and private sector. Federal policies can help facilitate broader deployment of geothermal energy while also ensuring we protect nature and people, including tribal and rural communities. TNC recommends that Congress consider taking the following actions to advance geothermal deployment. Improve agency coordination by increased expertise and educational resource sharing between federal agencies, and that can speed up the review and permit execution process and provide developers with a clear set of expectations. Ensure adequate agency staffing. Agencies need to have enough staff to ensure that permits move forward accurately and as quickly as possible. Permitting teams need to also include expertise in hydrological, cultural, and biological resources. Implement permitting reforms. Improving permitting and environmental review processes for geothermal energy help projects come online at a pace that meets the increasing electricity demand. If done right, modernizing the permitting process will accelerate timelines while still considering the needs of people and nature. Following the mitigation hierarchy is important to the Nature Conservancy. Agencies should be directed to avoid, minimize, and if necessary, mitigate any harmful effects from geothermal development. Lastly, supporting research and development. To accelerate geothermal deployment, the federal government should support public and private research into key topics such as subsurface mapping, deep drilling, materials development, and equipment design. TNC is encouraged by Congress's interest in geothermal energy and the many policy proposals that have been put forward today. We look forward to working with you to advance geothermal energy and other important clean energy solutions. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. Our final witness is Mr. Paul Thompson. He is the Vice President of Business Development of Ormet Technologies Incorporated, and he is stationed in Reno, Nevada. Mr. Thompson, you are now recognized for 5 minutes.
Chairman, Ranking Member, members of the committee, thank you so much for having me and for the opportunity to speak today. For the record, my name is Paul Thompson, and I'm the Vice President of Business Development for Ormet Technologies. On behalf of Ormet, I appreciate the committee's leadership in advancing geothermal energy development and improving the regulatory framework to accelerate responsible domestic energy production. As you all know, Ormet Technologies is a global leader in geothermal power, with power plants delivering 3,400 megawatts of power in 31 countries around the world. We design, develop, manufacture, operate, and own geothermal power plants worldwide. Here in the United States, Ormet operates extensively on federal lands, with over 20 active geothermal facilities producing more than 700 megawatts of power and only disturbing 800 acres. almost 1 megawatt of power production per acre of disturbance. We have one of the smallest environmental footprints of any type of energy production. We also hold extensive BLM leases for future exploration and development on BLM lands across California, Nevada, New Mexico, and Utah. Thanks to the hard work of the BLM that you heard about earlier and the direction of Congress, ORMAT is developing projects at a record pace. This year alone, we permitted 8 development projects to begin construction this year through NEPA. We permitted 7 exploration projects to begin drilling that went through the entire NEPA process. We processed 54 administrative permits for drilling, and we participated in 6 BLM auctions across 5 states. Our teams evaluated over 300 federal parcels, expanding our footprint significantly. While ORMAT supports all 9 bills, I'm here to focus on the 2 bills that ORMAT put forward. First, the Geothermal Energy Opportunity Act, or H.R. 301. We want to commend Congresswoman Maloy for putting it forward, and I think her comments on the bill were perfect. I would just want to give you a real-life example. We had projects complete the NEPA process that had baseline studies, thorough review through the National Environmental Policy Act. They were approved by the Endangered Species Act, and the National Historic Preservation Act. And then they went to get their administrative permit from bureaucrats in the agency, and some of these projects sat not for 12 months, not for 24 months, but for 36 months with a staffer saying, I don't want to approve this administrative permit. This bill strikes that option or regulatory capture from stopping projects moving forward. If a project has completed its thorough environmental review, staff should process the administrative permits that come after that. And they should do that regardless of if they think there may be a pending lawsuit or if they don't have the same desire to approve the project. The second bill is the Geothermal Royalty Reform Act, or H.R. 5638. As Congressman Kennedy pointed out, this modernizes the royalty structure that we intended to do in the Energy Policy Act of 2005. The real-world application here is ORMAT had a power plant in Nevada called McGinnis Hills. It was built in 2013. We then built the McGinnis Hills 2 power plant in 2016. We went on to build McGinnis Hills 3 3 years after that, developing the largest geothermal project on federal lands. Well, the intent of the Royalty Act was, because of the high capital cost of energy, we were going to provide a 1.5% royalty structure for the first 10 years, and that's going to increase to 3.5% in the following 10 years. When the first power plant reached its 10-year anniversary in 2023, it didn't just increase the royalty for that power plant, it took all the other power plants with it that were in the same geothermal resource area. We then learned that while the intent of the Energy Policy Act was to apply to each specific power plant that had its own specific power purchase agreement, this was not how the Office of Natural Resource Revenue saw it or was implementing it. This bill simply says the royalties paid to the federal government are on a plant-by-plant basis to streamline this process moving forward. By restoring Congress's intended facility-specific royalty structure, H.R. 5638 will spur investment, incentivize expansion on existing leases, reduce land disturbances through clustered facilities, and streamline the permitting process. Furthermore, it will increase royalty revenues over time by promoting broader industry growth, which benefits both the federal government and the developers. These 2 bills I've just discussed are vital to unlocking geothermal development in the U.S., along with the other 7 bills you've just heard about. On behalf of ORMAT, I want to thank you for your leadership and commitment to advancing renewable energy solutions, and I'm happy to answer any questions the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. The chair will now recognize members for 5 minutes of questions. I'm going to now recognize myself for 5 minutes. Mr. Latimer, again, it's great to see you. And I want to thank you again for hosting the subcommittee at Fervo's Cape Station project earlier this year. It was a great trip for us. You know, the HEATS Act would ensure that geothermal projects located primarily on state and private lands wouldn't need to go through needless additional layers of federal review if the federal government owns less than 50% of the subsurface mineral estate. How do state environmental reviews compare to the federal process?
Thank you, Chairman, and it was certainly a delight to host you in the subcommittee at our project site earlier this year. And there's no substitute from actually, getting out in the community and seeing the real project. So that was a real honor of mine. I think the question you ask is important, and actually one that we find really across all of the geothermal projects in Fervo's portfolio, where we now have over 500,000 acres of land across federal, state, and local permits that we've secured for geothermal development, which could translate into tens of gigawatts of power if developed successfully. And what you find across the West is often complicated sort of checkerboard patterns of land use where, in very few cases are all of those projects sort of one category of land, whether it's private, state, or federal. And so we often are put in this process of having multiple reviews and agencies looking at the same project just because of its split over different types of land. And so I think it's a smart bill to sort of resolve that issue and let the states take the lead where it's a position where the states have the most land in the process. And generally it does vary by state, but what we found is the state permitting process, for example, in Nevada and Utah, the two states that we're most active in, are much more precise, and the turnaround times are a lot quicker in terms of what the obligations of those projects are.
Mr. Latimer, give me an idea of the time difference.
Yeah, it's again, it very much depends not just on the state and the district, but also on the federal side, because as discussed in the opening remarks, there's huge variations in field offices, and I think that what you find is oftentimes if a state office or district office is informed and staffed appropriately for a very routine application, it could take days, whereas we've had instances where simple items such as applications to lease on the federal side, which again is just the application to lease the land, not even to move forward, where there would be subsequent environmental reviews to move forward on any activity, have sat for years in other district offices that are not as well staffed. So I don't, directionally you find that the state turnaround times are faster, but again, there's, I think one of the things that we need to solve, and that I think the bills do a great job of addressing, is that huge variation you find between the well-staffed and sophisticated offices versus the offices that are less familiar with geothermal, where again we've had permits, just applications for leases to sit
When
for
the
multi-year
permits are
time
quicker,
periods.
excuse me, but when the permits are quicker by the state, they're not cutting corners, are they?
No, what we find is in fact usually the state requirements, whether it's drilling or land disturbance or air use permits, oftentimes, or groundwater protection, of course, are oftentimes very highly similar to the exact kind of reviews that are done at the federal level. And so, no, I would not characterize the state regimes that we permit these projects under as cutting corners. I think it's oftentimes very substantially similar rules that are being enforced and reviewed, just under different timeframes.
Next question. Do you think the geothermal energy industry in the United States would be where it is today without the lessons that you've learned from oil and gas development?
No, I don't think so, and I think that's something that
Explain.
Yeah, well, I mean, just the stat that I was reading the other day, there has been now at this point in time, since the first oil well was drilled 150 years ago, something like 5 million wells drilled for oil and gas production in the United States. We're in like the hundreds or maybe thousands. I think Paul's company has drilled probably a good chunk of those, but it's certainly not 5 million. And so just the depth of expertise that you see in terms of the technology that's brought about and the resource characterization is very different between the oil and gas industry and the geothermal industry. And that's one of the things that, I started my career in oil and gas. I became very passionate about geothermal and saw that my skills as a drilling engineer would translate from the oil and gas industry very well into the geothermal industry. And that partnership, we include among our investors some of the leading technology companies in the oil and gas space, has allowed us to yield huge benefits in terms of performance and cost that would be much more difficult to do if we were starting from scratch. And I think is one of the reasons why our industry has been able to advance so much more quickly than other emerging clean energy technology sectors, because we have such a strong supply base to build from because of the expertise of the oil and gas industry that's so adjacent to our work.
Thank you very much. My time is up, and I'm going to yield 5 minutes to Mr. Magaziner.
Am I on? Oh, there we go. I think this is one area where the Trump administration, where colleagues on both sides of the aisle can support clean energy that is affordable and reliable. Supporting geothermal and other forms of clean energy makes it easier to get more energy onto the grid and helps lower energy costs for our consumers. Now, Western states have historically been the epicenter for the development of geothermal plants. I do not come from a Western state, but the heat of the earth is available everywhere, and geothermal energy shows great potential everywhere. The University of Rhode Island in my district plans to heat and cool a new research facility on the Narragansett Bay campus with a geothermal well that will reduce energy use by up to 60% for heating and 50% for cooling. And I'm especially interested in EGS systems and supporting their development. So, you know, I'll ask anyone on the panel, but maybe starting with Mr. Latimer, I take it that the technology is developing rapidly, but what is it going to take to make EGS systems cost competitive nationally, and particularly in parts of the country like mine?
Yes, it's an excellent question, and it's our ambition at FERVO, as well as the Department of Energy's ambition, to make this a 50-state technology. But I think it's also true that, actually the phrase I heard recently that I like is, for geothermal to work everywhere, it has to work somewhere first. And obviously conventional geothermal has a long track record of success, but we're just now building out the first deep enhanced geothermal system projects ever in the western United States right now. And we've selected Utah, for example, for this site because we can reach temperatures above 400 degrees Fahrenheit at only 8,000 feet of depth. If we were to go to Rhode Island, for example, the depth may be double or more for that level. And so what we believe at FERVO, and the Department of Energy has been a great partner in supporting this mission, is that we need to start at the resources that are the most cost-effective first. So your question on when will these technologies be cost-effective, in the right geologic resource where we are in Utah and Nevada and Idaho, the answer to that's today. And that's an exciting answer because that allows us to drill the wells and build the power plants to come down the cost curve. You know, I shared in my opening testimony, since our first well we drilled in 2022 to today, we've actually reduced the cost per foot of drilling by over 75%. And so the more we drill, the more we improve technology, the deeper we can go on the same cost structure. And so I think where we see our trajectory, we've already come down on a cost per foot basis by 75%. We think we're going to cut that in half again over the next 2 to 3 years. And that starts putting even eastern U.S. resources in the right part of the cost curve. And to give an example of that, you know, even though we're drilling most of our wells at the Project Cape resource between 8,000 and 10,000 feet, we drilled a deep test well just a few months ago at our site that reached 16,000 feet, and we drilled it in only 16 days, a small fraction of what industry benchmarks for hard rock geothermal drilling could have been done before. So the exciting thing that I think from that data point is this world where we can take this across into the eastern United States and around the world is not far away.
Can you give us a sense, I mean, are the barriers to accomplishing that over the next few years primarily barriers of sort of supply chain and scale, or are there still technological advances that need to be made?
Yeah, we're improving the technology every day, but the ability to drill 16,000-foot wells to well over 500 degrees Fahrenheit and do it using a precision directional drilling like FERVO does already exists today. I think I'm a massive proponent of what I would call deployment-led innovation, which is that the way we're going to continue dropping these costs is by drilling more wells, building more power plants, and not, you know, we can support a separate R&D structure, which is vital, and we partner with the national labs regularly, but the way we unlock ever deeper resources is getting more reps in the field.
On that point, and I only have a minute left, so I'll ask you briefly, and then Dr. Rohrmeyer as well. In southern New England, we're also very densely populated, and so, you know, in terms of the actual space that is needed, the land that's needed in order to make this work in a densely populated area, what are we looking at? And then Dr. Rohrmeyer, what concerns do you have with this technology in densely populated areas?
Yeah, I think that both Dr. Jones and Mr. Thompson shared some phenomenal stats about the density, you know, how few acres are needed to produce the equivalent amount of energy from geothermal. So I would actually say, relative to any other energy resource, this is actually an incredibly well-suited resource to work in densely populated areas because the ground disturbance is so small.
And just with my
power output you have.
Sorry.
Yes, thank you for the question. So while geothermal is advancing in its industry, it's actually a very mature industry. It's predictable. It provides proven baseload resources. And to your question about how it can be compatible with land uses in densely populated places, I'd like to actually point to the example of Reno, Nevada, where we have a geothermal plant that's utility scale, providing 85 megawatts of clean, continuous power, and it's adjacent to homes and schools. So we look at that as a really good example of a compatible, sustainable land use.
It's very promising. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you very much. The chair now recognizes Representative Fulcher for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got a question for Dr. Jones, but when I say Dr. Jones, I have this impression of a movie character with a whip and a fedora hat. Do you think it would be respectful if I referred to him as Bryant, just for the purpose of this?
You may refer to him at your comfort level.
Bryant, question for you. We've recently had discussions about the nuclear energy in this committee, and one of the big obstacles of seeing that proliferate is not only just the permitting, but it's the supply chain, because basically that's been discouraged since the 1980s. And it's a real obstacle. Geothermal is growing, and I see a tremendous potential, and quite frankly, with the bipartisan support, I think it's going to continue. As this proliferates, how are you equipped? How is the supply chain set to accommodate this industry?
Yeah, it's a great question, Congressman Fulcher, and next time I'll wear my fedora. Geothermal offers the United States a tremendous opportunity. The supply chain is domestic. This very much is an all-American energy resource that is, as we keep saying, right beneath our feet. We're mostly using steel and concrete. All of that can be sourced right here in the United States. Our workforce is domestic as well. It offers an incredible export opportunity. This technology is desirable for countries around the world that are looking to the United States for the innovations that are being advanced by companies like Fervo and Ormat and Ever and XGS and Zanskar. We are, even though it's only 0.5% of our electricity mix, the export opportunities are tremendous, and it also has an opportunity to really affect geopolitics. I mean, because it's a domestic supply chain, we can source our materials here. We're buying all of our fuel up front, so to speak. We're removing a lot of those geopolitical challenges and supply chains, and so it is a tremendous opportunity for the United States.
Thank you for that. I'm going to go to Mr. Latimer for a question, and I'll open this up if necessary, but you had referenced in your testimony the importance of that for American industry and for American energy. Is there, I should know this, but I really don't. Can you provide a perspective? Is there leaders in other countries that have really advanced in the geothermal technology and really proliferated that maybe we can learn from, or that would be a good model as we try to proliferate that industry?
Yeah, I would say, thank you for the question, Congressman. I would say the answer is yes. There's a great global research community. Just Fervo alone, we're involved in next generation geothermal projects in Japan and the EU and other markets around the world, and a long legacy of large geothermal production and innovation in places like Kenya that gets half of its electricity from geothermal, Iceland and New Zealand and Indonesia, these countries that are famous for their geothermal. I would argue, though, that when it comes to the technical skills required to do advanced subsurface development, the U.S. is today in a league of our own. The competency around the supply chain, the skilled workforce that we have, not just the engineering workforce, but the skilled labor that we have in the field for execution of drilling in these projects. What we see from my former industry in the oil and gas world is the efficiencies on drilling in the United States put us in a league of our own compared to what other countries can do. And as we scale enhanced geothermal systems here, we're seeing the same comparison point where while we continue to be excited and learn from our colleagues all around the world in the world of geothermal, this is one of the few areas, I would say, in emerging energy technologies where there's increasingly competitiveness with China and other regions, where the U.S. is by far the definitive leader in technology.
All right, thank you for that. I'm going to go back to Brian. If you have 50 seconds left, I'm sorry, I'm going to get a question in writing to Mr. Thompson, but Brian, back to you. Geothermal rising has been heavily involved with a lot of innovation. And we've been talking about streamlining and legislation that streamlines the process. Is there a link between a streamlined process and improved innovation? And if so, what's that link?
Well, from a policy perspective,
Yes.
I mean, we're here talking about permitting reform right now, and that's a link to the actual deployment and scalability of the geothermal industry. Sort of outside of the jurisdiction of this committee, there's risk mitigation programs for exploration drilling. There's additional Forge projects. Forge has been an incredibly impactful and successful example of government and private sector partnership, and Congress has already authorized more of those. So if we could have more Forge projects to test other sedimentary basins, that would be another huge opportunity for us to continue advancing the innovation in this industry.
Thank you. Thank you for the testimony of everybody, and I yield back.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes Ranking Member Ansari for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all so much for being here today. As I mentioned in my opening statement, next generation geothermal has the possibility to be truly transformational for American energy. One thing that you don't often hear about with new technologies is how affordable they are, but geothermal may be the exception there. So Mr. Latimer, this first question is for you. How quickly are FERVO's drilling costs decreasing, and how does this compare to the National Renewable Energy Lab's predictions for when next-gen geothermal would become cost competitive with other energy sources? And what does that mean for your ability to scale up and then for Americans' energy bills?
Thank you, Congresswoman, for the question. And I think we're seeing our costs come down pretty rapidly. And actually, your question on the NREL annual technology baseline for enhanced geothermal systems costs are a big motivator for why I started FERVO to begin with. I saw a huge underinvestment in the sector when I became interested in it about a decade ago. And one of the reasons for that is if you looked at the NREL ATB on enhanced geothermal systems cost, they showed them as cost prohibitive, but also unlike other technologies like wind and solar, where there was very clearly on a learning curve where they were becoming cheaper over time, those original NREL forecasts showed it would be cost prohibitive forever. And I thought that was wrong. Actually, the first paper I ever published on the topic was how learning curves would apply to enhanced geothermal systems, and that over time we would lower our cost per foot of drilling in a way that would lead to radically different costs. And I think I felt very vindicated in 2023 when after FERVO published our first pilot project results, that NREL in just 1 year update from 22 to 23 reduced their estimated cost for enhanced geothermal systems LCOE by over 50%, and it's continued to trend downward over time. And I think one of the important things that we've done as the sector now is shown that we can be on a rapid learning curve where the costs do get cheaper year over year because we improve the drilling. And that's really important, especially when the U.S. government is thinking about where to place our bets and what resources to rely on in the future, that we show that more investment in R&D and geothermal does turn into radically lower costs, which improves the affordability of this resource. And I think our industry is proud to be on a different trajectory than where you see most energy technology costs going today, and that's a trajectory of ever decreasing costs.
Thank you so much. Renewable energies like geothermal can help Americans' energy bills go down and stay down. Not only are they cheaper and faster to build than fossil fuel generators today, but families don't end up on the hook for spiking fuel prices whenever there's a natural disaster or international unrest. Dr. Rohrmeyer, from your perspective, what are the best practices for efficient, responsible geothermal permitting, and how could my bill, the Geothermal Gold Book Development Act, and the other legislation that we're considering today help improve the geothermal permitting process?
Thank you. We're excited by the prospect of the rapid expansion of geothermal, especially enhanced geothermal systems. All of the bills heard today have the potential to make permitting more efficient. At the Nature Conservancy, we just advocate that this can't be at the expense of thorough scientific review of environmental impacts, especially in situations with experimentation with new methods and technologies. That said, we believe that so long as the agencies can meet the timeframes that are established by some of these bills, we support them. We also support the programmatic EIS that was put forth for that would then lead to categorical exclusions for increased exploration for geothermal deployment. But with specific regard to your Gold Book, that is a foundational source. In fact, my very first day of work, it was required reading. And so having that consistency across district and field and state offices is valuable. Having the ombudsman liaison, that will not only help set expectations and remedy conflicts, potential conflicts, but inform future versions of the Gold Book as a best practice. So we see many
Thank
good
you.
things.
And in just the final 40 seconds, Mr. Latimer, as somebody who has worked with multiple BLM field offices on permitting geothermal projects, how has the process differed from office to office, and what would more consistency in the permitting process mean for your business?
Thank you again for the question. Consistency would be huge, because it's not just that sometimes the rules are different, so we have to change well designs or power plant designs from place to place. It's really that change in timeline. You know, in offices that are well-staffed and have the right experts on hand, we can have very good conversations about how to develop the most responsible project and move quickly. Whereas, as I've said, in other offices that don't have that same access to expertise, it can be a multi-year process to even get our applications looked at. So driving consistency across the West and across the rest of the country for these different field offices is what I think our industry needs to truly scale at the speed that we need to make a difference on people's electricity bills and the country's carbon emissions profile. So consistency would be a massive step forward in terms of scaling geothermal power.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the witnesses for their valuable testimony and the members for their questions. I have to tell you that the witnesses, this is, as Dr. Jones says, geothermal is rising. This is really, really exciting technology, and I want to thank you all for being here to share your expertise and answer our questions. The members of the subcommittee may have some additional questions for the witnesses, and we will ask you to respond to these in writing. Under Committee Rule 3, members of the subcommittee must submit questions to the subcommittee clerk by 5 p.m. on Friday, December 19th. The hearing record will be held open for 10 business days for these responses. If there's no further business, without objection, the subcommittee stands adjourned.